What's up everyone, it's Sprometheus, and today these two hand-pressed espresso machines are going head to head. It's the Flair versus the Rock. Let's dive in. Round 1, we're doing temperature stability. I'm going super low tech on this one. I've got this thermometer. I'm going to put it in the brew chamber. I'm going to put some hot water in there right before I brew, and we're going to test the shot before and after brew to see how much heat it's going to lose through the whole process. So as you can see, this thermometer is topping out at about 160. We're going to say 160 to be safe, and we're going to brew our shot. Now my expectation is the Rock is going to lose a little more heat than the Flair because its brew chamber is kind of open to the elements. You can see steam rising out, things like that. It's not quite as sealed as tightly as the Flair is, but we're going to find out once we have our shot. Alright, so now that we have our shot, let's pull it out and we'll drop a thermometer in there and see where it falls. It looks like we're peaking at about 110, so that's about a 50-degree drop from the brew chamber to the espresso shot. Now let's do the same thing for the Flair. We're going to drop their water in, we're going to test where it peaks out at. This one seems to always peak out at about 160, 170. This one looks like it's landing again at about 160. Apparently this kettle doesn't like to go that hot. And we're going to pull our shot. So let's seal it off and see what happens with the temperature between here and the shot. All right, we've got our shot. Let's test the temperature. So we can watch it climb here, and this one looks like it's going to hit pretty much the exact same point. So these tend to land at about 110 on both sides. This one may be a little bit, like maybe 1 degree higher, maybe 111. But overall, plus or minus 1 degree, it's not a huge difference. So we're going to have to call this test a tie. For round 2, we're going to do ease of cleaning. The first competitor we're going to look at is the Rock espresso machine. So we're going to see what it's like to clean this thing. One thing I really appreciate about the Rock is the fact that it has a portafilter with a handle. It makes cleaning up a little bit easier. You just pull it off. It is the opposite direction as a standard portafilter, which does throw me off a little bit, but it's super simple to knock it out into the garbage can or knock box with a handle. Without a handle, it's a little bit trickier, and it comes out pretty clean. As you can see, it doesn't look any different than knocking a portafilter for a standard espresso machine. And then the drip tray itself is a really easy clean, mildly damp towel, a couple wipes, and you're good to go. Underneath the screen where the diffuser is, it actually stays pretty clean. If you want to rinse it off, throw it in the sink, rinse it off, and drop it in your drying rack, and you're good to go. So that's it for cleaning the Rock. Super simple, very straightforward. Next up, we're cleaning the Flair. Now keep in mind this is the standard brew group for the Flair. I do have the Pro. For this test, I'm using the standard group because it seems to compare a lot better to the Rock. But here's my big complaint about the standard brew group. Removing the group head and removing the portafilter from the group head is tricky. Once it comes out, it's definitely a tight fit. Then you're going to get some hot water on your hand. There'll be some grounds and stuff in there. That's kind of annoying. And then, generally if there's a little bit of hot water, I dump it out into a cup, something like that. And then comes the task of removing the filter. Because it has this nice tight seal that helps with extraction, but in the end, it does make it a little more difficult to clean. So I have to risk damaging it with something with a little spike because I have no fingernails to pull the whole screen off. Once the screen is off, then you have the portafilter with the puck ready to come out, and then the challenge of knocking the puck out. Once you get it out, it doesn't have a handle like the other one does. It's a little bit trickier. Once you get it out though, it does come out pretty clean. And then the drip tray itself, I generally, like I said, throw a cup underneath there to catch anything. And this 2-piece drip tray, even though it's nice and aesthetic, it is kind of annoying to have to lift it up to wipe it out. Round 3 is workflow pace. So for this one, I'm just going to show you sped up the workflow between the Rock and the Flair. I'm going to time them both and tell you which one's faster. So for this portion, I don't really need to say anything. It's kind of self-explanatory. Round 4, we're talking shot quality. Alright, so even though both these machines are relatively similar in the process and how you make espresso and basically applying pressure to a puck, all that fun stuff, but they definitely produce a very different shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a shot on each machine. We're going to taste them and we're going to talk about them. I'm going to rate them out of 10. So the one thing I do like about the Rock over the Flair is that I can use a 17-gram dose and it's not much of an issue. But on the Flair, 16 seems to be the max that'll actually fit and work well in that machine. So let's pull this shot on the Rock and see how it tastes. Alright, let's give this a quick swirl to mix things up a bit, and we'll give it a taste, and we're going to rate it from 0 to 10. So my rating is a 6 out of 10. So it has thin crema and body, lack of mouthfeel. It's overall kind of watery considering it's capable of using a larger dose than the Flair. Alright, next up we're going to pull a shot on the Flair. Like I mentioned before, I've swapped out my Pro group head for the standard group head to make it a more comparable shot to what the Rock can create. So let's pull this shot and see what it tastes like. One observation I made between both machines is that the Flair seems to maintain a nice smooth stream as long as you're keeping your pressure pretty standard. On the Rock, I noticed a lot of spurting and stopping and things like that, and I think that has to do with the actual seal of the group or the boiler where you have your hot water compared to the Rock. So I think that that will actually translate into a better shot of espresso. Let's find out. So just visually looking at this shot, it looks better to me. So I can see some tiger striping, I can see just some color variation in there. There's a little bit of bubbles, it's no big deal, tap those right out. We'll give it a quick swirl and let's find out what it tastes like. For me, this shot scores 8 out of 10. It's got thicker crema, nicer color, and tiger striping. It's got a better balance and overall extraction, which I think is likely due to the tighter seal on the brew chamber. Like I mentioned, that spurting and things like that happening on the Rock earlier. In review, round 1, temperature stability was a tie. They both started at 160 degrees and they both ended at 110. Round 2, ease of cleaning. The Rock was easier to clean, the portafilter is nice to have a handle to knock things out, and the drip tray is super simple, just a quick wipe. Round 3, workflow pace. The Flair was faster by a significant margin. Round 4, shot quality. The Flair took that one as well. So it looks like the winner is the Flair. So this is the winner for a few reasons. The Flair, although it's not perfect, it's the best and most consistent hand press espresso machine I've tried. The Rock is no slouch, but it falls short in the quality of the espresso that I would expect from the machine itself. If you have any experience with these two, drop it down in the comments below. I want to know your thoughts. Do you like the Rock? Do you like the Flair? Where do you stand? As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Sprometheus, the blog at Sprometheus.com. And as always, stay caffeinated, Pony Boy.